Today I'm going to show you how to turn this into this. Which is illegal. After nearly 10 years of Destiny, this game has grown into one of the most rewarding, yet most difficult games to get into. Not even touching on the mental overload of quests, bounties, weapons, perks, story, and tons more, this game has its new players cut out for a lot of content, but also a lot of work. I'm 43, a veteran Destiny 2 player all the way from the D1 beta, and I'm here to be your guiding hand in unlocking your Guardian's potential in Destiny 2. For the last week or two, Destiny has never been in a better state to start playing the game. All of the major expansions are free to play, the game is more rewarding than ever, and most importantly, what I believe to be this game's pinnacle of achievement, the build crafting has never been more engaging. As the title states, this video will go into how you can start making builds, what steps you can take not only to get better gear for them, but also how you should go about making them without getting confused, and show you a couple of examples of what endgame builds are capable of. Before we get into anything, I wanted to note that many Destiny builds you'll see online require a specific weapon or armor piece to work. Just because you don't have this gear and aren't endgame ready by day one, doesn't mean you can't indulge in the build crafting experience. In at-level content, many non-endgame builds can still shine and be a blast to play, and as we all know, if it isn't fun, then why bother? Destiny is a game that doesn't do the best in onboarding its new players to the more complex systems in the game like build crafting. There are many steps that have to be completed before you can even equip mods and customize your subclass. The best place I can direct all new players is to the Guardian ranks system. Following the objectives in the system is a great way to learn all the ways to unlock build crafting elements in the game. After doing the main starting quest and a couple miscellaneous objectives, Guardian rank 4 will introduce you to build crafting. Ikora Ray, a vendor located in the left side of the tower map, will be your main vendor for subclass stuff, and Banshee will help you with gun stuff. Here's a list of the main stuff you'll need before we can even start build crafting. Guardian rank 6 unlocked. You follow the steps indicated in the menu labeled Journey. Up to rank 6, they should be pretty simple. At least one subclass fully unlocked. Ikora Ray in the tower will help you out with this. All of the subclass elements that she sells you will cost Glimmer, and Glimmer is something you can accumulate over time, but if you do need it, it's best farmed through public events on any destination, the best being the EDZ because it's the largest. Ikora will give you a suite of subclass stuff that we can use to create builds. An exotic weapon and armor piece. Until June 3rd, the easiest way to acquire these are Gift of the Thunder Gods in the Hall of Champions under the Into the Light tab in your director. The second easiest way is through Xur, a vendor that can be found during the weekends that sells exotics for dirt cheap, especially since legendary shards are being deprecated by June 3rd. Legendary shards are acquired by dismantling legendary gear, and I encourage you to use all of them. Use a Where is Xur website to find him every weekend. Arguably, exotics are the cornerstone of your build. Exotics have unique perks that are paramount to build crafting. If you're playing during Into the Light before June 3rd, the Gift of the Thunder Gods is your main path to this. However, if you're not, there are a multitude of starting quests, and Xur as well, that vendor I mentioned earlier, will get you some exotics. The majority of build crafting is familiarizing yourself with what each element of your build does, so inspect your exotic armor piece and read the armor perk. In this example, I have Liar's Handshake on my Hunter, which states that using our melee ability while on the Arc subclass will allow us to follow up with a devastating counterattack. Most exotics in the game will give you some keywords in the description that help us understand where to best utilize their abilities. In this example, we see the use of two, that being Arc, the subclass, and melee. This tells us that to best use this exotic, we should be on the arc subclass and funneling everything into our melee ability. Don't worry about the armor mods section for now, let's move on to the next most important piece of our build, the subclass. Destiny currently has 5 different subclass elements in the game, ranging from bending the strings of reality to harnessing the energy between known space and time. Now that we have chosen our exotic armor piece, let's follow what it tells us to use and open our arc subclass menu. The subclass menu is split into 4 sections: your super, your abilities, your aspects, and your fragments. If unlocked at Ikora Rey in the tower, all of these options will be available to equip. Since our exotic is reliant on our melee ability, we can choose whatever super option we like best. For our dodge, we choose Gambler's Dodge as it states that it fully recharges our melee ability on use, which is our first step into making a cohesive build. Jump options are personal choice, although for new players I would recommend strafe/triple jump. Now for our melee option, this is very important as our exotic armor piece directly interacts with this option. We have a choice between disorienting and combination blow. However, upon reading both of their descriptions, we see that not only does combination blow increase our melee damage, but also refunds our class ability energy, which loops back into Gambler's Dodge, which will refund our melee energy when nearby targets. In other words, this now means that we can kill a target with our melee ability, refund our dodge, and immediately use our dodge to refund our melee ability, an infinite loop as long as there's something to kill. This is great as is, but there's still much more to go. This exotic doesn't directly affect our grenade, so this is mostly personal choice. Onto our aspects, these are subclass perks that heavily affect how your subclass is played, often adding brand new abilities or pathways to easier get buffs or debuffs. Arc Hunter has 3 aspects, and after reading their description, we see that Lethal Current makes our melee ability better, and Flow State allows our dodge to be safer and easier to reacquire, both leaning heavily into the build we're already creating. Once again, these directly play into the melee-heavy playstyle outlined by our exotic armor piece. Onto fragments, these are subclass perks that lightly affect how our subclass is played. Unlike aspects, there are typically a lot to choose from, so don't be afraid to read their descriptions. Remember, we are looking for anything that supports our melee ability. Spark of Resistance might catch your eye, stating that we gain damage resistance while nearby enemies, which we definitely will be with a melee-focused build. Spark of Feedback is almost specifically tailored for this build, stating that taking melee damage from enemies will make our melee damage do more in return. Spark of Ions is next, stating that defeating a jolted target will create an ionic trace. If you're new to Destiny, these terms might be confusing. Luckily, when you hover over a perk that applies one of these effects, it will give you a short description of it. If you were previously paying attention, you'll notice that the Lethal Current aspect we previously chose allows our melee to jolt targets, meaning that we can now get ionic traces from our melees with Spark of Ions. Last but not least is Spark of Amplitude, which states that we get an Orb of Power for defeating targets while amplified. Orbs of Power are pickups in the game that give us super energy, so these are very important to say the least. Now, that was my run through of Arc Hunter and how to build into Liar's Handshake, but this general rhetoric can be used for any element on any class for any exotic item. Always try to build your subclass into what your exotic armor says you should. The more you specialize, the better your build gets. For example, if I had an exotic that built into grenade energy and the strength of my grenade ability, I would look for everything on my subclass to buff my grenades. There are so many different weapons and perks in Destiny, it won't take long to get confused. So let's break it down. There are 3 types of weapons in Destiny: primary, special, and power. These weapons all use different ammo, primaries having infinite since they're the weakest, specials being the green bricks you'll see drop from enemies being uncommon, and power being the purple bricks, which are rare. Legendary weapons come with a plethora of perks, so for now let's focus on exotic weapons. One of the first ones you'll receive from an exotic quest is the Risk Runner. This exotic importantly matches the element of our subclass, which is a great start. Matching your weapon elements to your subclass element is almost always the best option. Energy weapons like Solar, Arc, and Void being in this slot, and kinetic weapons like Kinetics, Stasis, and Strand being in this slot. In this case, we're going to equip Risk Runner. Reading the perk, it states that receiving arc damage will overcharge the weapon. Perfect for our build. As this is a primary weapon, it's a good idea to have a special weapon in your kinetic slot just above it, just to round things out. As for legendary weapons, reading the perks on them alone will give you a good idea of whether they're useful or not, but here's some perks I would specifically keep an eye out for. Demolitionist, Pugilist, Incandescent, Heal Clip, Volt Shot, Eddy Current, Destabilizing Rounds, Repulsor Brace, Chill Clip, Headstone, Hatchling, and Slice. Many of these perks directly interact with your subclass element or ability energy, which makes them some of the best in slot. For now, let's move on. Armor mods and stats can be very effective in elevating a build to the next level, but aren't nearly as important as the aforementioned features. Lots of this section will require reading, but it is all worth it. Starting with the stats on your character screen, you'll see this little menu beside your armor that displays them. In descending order, mobility increases our movement speed and jump height, and for hunters specifically, it reduces our passive class ability regeneration. Resilience increases our damage resist, recovery increases our passive health regeneration, discipline reduces our grenade cooldown, strength reduces our melee cooldown, and intellect reduces our super cooldown. 0 stat is the lowest, and 100 stat is the max. The higher the stat number, the larger the effect. For this build, obviously we want to build into strength, as it reduces our melee cooldown. However, we also have a lot of other stuff reducing our melee cooldown, so you could take an average of all the perks and go for discipline instead. As for the others, mobility is always good on hunters as it reduces our dodge cooldown, but resilience is a passive global damage reduction stat, so it's always in use and always good. Now onto armor mods. Once again, starting from the top, we have our helmet. You'll see what's called an armor tier, where our armor goes from level 1 to level 100. This pick 10 system gives us a number of points we can use to slot armor mods, with each mod having a different cost. You can level up your armor with upgrade materials once you get your hands on them, but if you can't fully level your armor yet, that is okay. I'll highlight the most important mods in each slot. The first armor mod you'll see allows us to increase the stat of our choosing. This helps us specialize into certain stats that help our build. The next 3 are where things get interesting. Don't be afraid to take your time and read the description of these mods, as their effects vary wildly. I'll direct you towards the Siphon mods, which grant us orbs of power on kills with certain elements. This mod is called Harmonic, which is cheaper as long as the weapon we're using matches our subclass element. Siphon mods are massive for your build, and I highly suggest grabbing at least one. Next, we see a mod with a melee icon, which should immediately grab your attention with the build we have in mind. Hands-on will give us more super energy on melee kills, which is perfect for our build since we'll be getting a lot of melee kills. Onto our arms, we see a lot more stuff with melee icons. Some of them give us orbs of power on melee kills, some of them reduce melee cooldown, some reduce our class ability cooldown. Heavy-handed is an obvious start as orbs of power are never useless. Next, we should look towards impact induction, which reduces our grenade cooldown on melee hits, which we'll be getting a lot of. Onto our chest, these mods mostly deal with damage reduction and ammo capacity. 3 that will stand out to you and probably have been are mods colored green, yellow, and blue. These mods interact with a system called Armor Charge. White mods are neutral to the system, meaning they have no effect. Green mods help you gain stacks of Armor Charge quicker or in new ways. Yellow mods will use a set amount of those stacks to gain something on use, and blue mods will and blue mods will deplete those stacks over time for a boost. A general rule of thumb is never to mix blue and yellow mods on a build as they counteract each other. The easiest way to get armor charge stacks is by picking up orbs of power, which our subclass and the mods we already equipped previously will generate quite frequently. Armor charge is a way we can further capitalize on those orbs. For now, we can slot 1 copy of Charged Up, as this will increase our armor charge capacity from 3 to 4. Slot a resist mod that will help you in close range like Concussive or Melee Dampener, and we're good to go. Onto the legs, we can now find a place for us to use those armor charges. The Arc Weapon Surge mod will allow us to have higher arc weapon damage as long as we're picking up Orbs of Power, which is perfect for Risk Runner. Slotting 2 or 3 of these mods will increase the power of the effect. Besides this, leg armor mods are extremely powerful, so any of these options rather than holster mods are typically quite potent. Mods that recharge abilities when picking up Orbs of Power are very good mods like Stacks on Stacks that allows us to get 2 charges for every 1 orb. For now, I'm just going to slot 2 Arc Surges and an Orbs of Restoration. Firstly, for the class item, which on Hunters is our Cloak, Time Dilation allows our armor charges to deplete more slowly, which helps us retain that damage buff for longer. Reaper will get us another orb when we use our Dodge, which we will be using often, and Powerful Attraction will collect them automatically when using our Dodge as well. Armor mods are a fantastic way to elevate your build, and when used correctly, they can make a good build into an absolutely ridiculous one. I'll briefly mention the artifact you get from the seasonal quest line. This is an item that constantly levels up over the course of a season. Its mods are all laid out in this grid here and are all passively applied, meaning once they are unlocked, they are always active. These mods change season to season, so some seasons one element or subclass is just better than another. This season's Solar is very potent because of the artifact mods. These are always good to unlock and engage with, but never necessary for a build to work. I like to think that artifact mods should elevate an already strong build and not make a weak build into one. Every good build goes through rigorous testing before you get it just right. For now, I suggest hopping into Onslaught, as this mode has a ton of enemies to kill to get all of your perks going. Here's my playthrough on the build we just made together. Didn't know? You're a new player and one of the steps is to get some shaders and you don't have any shaders. Go to the store, go to Archive, scroll all the way back here, and there's this year 1 shader bundle that gives you all these shaders for just 1,000 glimmer, which you should have. So grab that immediately. Once again, I should mention join up on the Discord. Should be linked probably in the description. We're gonna start doing some Destiny stuff in there, including like people submitting builds, submitting exotic ideas. We're gonna do some LFG, we're gonna do some raids, some dungeons. So if you want to get really into this game, there is no better place. So let's just keep using our build. So currently right now, there are a lot of these exploding guys, and as this is a melee focused build, we don't really want to face stuff. So we're just gonna get exploded, but I can punch guys that aren't exploding. As you can see, I'm already creating a ton of orbs of power in the bottom left there, which is really good to keep a build flowing. And what you need to do is take a dodge, hit a melee, hit a dodge, hit a melee. As soon as you see that dodge come back up, just use it immediately. Melee and dodge and melee. And it's really that simple. And this isn't legend because I didn't want to waste people's time. So obviously this could be a lot more difficult, but does it really have to be? You know, this build I'm sure would do fine in Legend for a little bit. Maybe not forever. We do it. And this is the exact same build that I ran you through, and this is not the only build that obviously works in this game. There's this whole loadout system over here, and you can save a bunch of loadouts and put them together and save them and go back to them every now and then, and test out if they work on this, you know, ability, or sorry, activity. So yeah, save your builds, experiment, have fun. If you get a new exotic armor piece, try to make a build with it as soon as you get it. And I'm really trying to get a melee kill here. Recharge my dodge, and then melee, and then dodge, and then melee, and then dodge. And you see everything just kind of dies. And we have a ton of damage resist. So we don't really need to be worrying about taking too much damage. Except for from this guy, maybe. You see in the bottom left there, we have the armor charge going off. So we have 4 stacks of armor charge total because of that one mod we slot on our chest, that one green mod. And then you can see that they're counting down slowly because we're getting a arc weapon boost, which you see almost right below it, that arc weapon boost ×2. That's because of those blue mods that we slotted on our legs. And then instead of 10 seconds, it lasts 15 seconds because of that other green mod, that time dilation mod that we slotted on our cloak. If you're not able to get melee kills, just do a dodge quickly. So these guys, obviously, those are easy. So we get the dodge, and then we're going to hit the melee, and then hit the dodge, melee, and then the dodge, melee, until we get our dodge back, that is. Go. Grenade down at our feet as well. Throwing the grenade at our feet actually seems stupid, but somewhat strategic because it actually will proc Risk Runner. Risk Runner perk states that taking any type of arc damage will proc its perk, and that includes self-damage, believe it or not. It doesn't explain to you how to kill these guys either, so the big tip I have is shoot their shoulder pads, those big yellow shoulder pads on them first, and then they're going to go into really angry mode, like rage mode, and that's when you shoot their chest. So our friend is getting a bad suck there, so we're gonna try clearing some of these guys out with our melee. All these guys are just spawning over here, and all we need to do is just keep that melee rolling. Taking a decent bit of damage from this LMG, actually. And almost, and he's dead. There we go. Now, I'm not going to do a round 50 on normal, so these guys I'm going to fortunately have to leave. Bye-bye. It's not really worth my time to do this, so I'm going to dip. That is my quick... well, not really quick, but my little guide on how to start build crafting in Destiny. I always encourage people to be as creative as possible. Again, if you get a new exotic armor piece, try making a build for it. Try putting a bunch of stuff together, try picking a weapon. Again, keep weapons that have perks like the ones I mentioned, because they will directly, if you match this to your subclass, they will directly help you out in a lot of ways. But yeah, thanks for watching, I guess. Yeah, join on the Discord for some Destiny stuff, and yeah, I'll see you guys on the flip side.